Long ago, in a land called India, a prince was born. This land was rich in culture, history, and tradition, a place where stories of gods and heroes were woven into the very fabric of life. His name was Siddhartha Gautama, a name that would one day be known across the world. His father was King Suddhodana, the ruler of the Shakya clan, a wise and powerful leader who dreamed of a great future for his son. His mother was Queen Maya Devi, a woman of grace and beauty, who was revered by all who knew her. Legends say that baby Siddhartha took 7 steps right after he was born, and with each step, a lotus flower bloomed under his feet, symbolizing purity and enlightenment. It was foretold by wise sages that he would either become a mighty king who would unite the land, or a great spiritual leader who would bring enlightenment to the world. Siddhartha grew up in a palace, surrounded by luxury and opulence. His every need was met, and he was shielded from the harsh realities of life. The palace was full of beautiful things, from intricate tapestries to golden statues, a place where beauty and wealth were in abundance. He had everything he could ever want, from the finest toys to the most delicious foods, and he was loved by all who served him. His father, King Suddhodana, wanted to protect him from the hardships of the world. He believed that if Siddhartha never saw suffering, he would never be troubled by it. As Siddhartha grew older, his father continued to shield him from any form of pain or sorrow. He was kept within the palace walls, away from the suffering of the outside world. When he came of age, Siddhartha married a beautiful princess named Yasodhara. Their wedding was a grand celebration, filled with joy and festivity. They had a son named Rahula, and their family life seemed perfect. They were the picture of happiness and prosperity. Siddhartha loved his family very much. He cherished the moments he spent with them, and they brought him great joy. But deep down, he felt something was missing. Despite all the luxury and love, there was a void in his heart that he couldn't ignore. He often found himself wondering about the meaning of life. What was the purpose of his existence? Why was there suffering in the world? These questions haunted him, and he knew he had to find the answers. One day, Siddhartha decided to leave the palace. He had lived a life of luxury and comfort, surrounded by opulence and grandeur. But deep within, he felt a yearning, a curiosity that could not be quelled by the riches around him. He wanted to see the world beyond the palace walls, the world that he had only heard about in stories and whispers, a world that was real and raw, unlike the sheltered existence he had known. His father had kept him shielded. The king believed that by protecting Siddhartha from the harsh realities of life, he could ensure his happiness. But Siddhartha felt confined, like a bird in a gilded cage. Now Siddhartha would learn the truth about life. He embarked on a journey, riding through the kingdom in a royal chariot, his mind filled with anticipation and trepidation. As he rode through the kingdom, Siddhartha saw something he had never seen before. The sights and sounds of the world outside were both fascinating and unsettling. It was an old man bent over with age. His movements were slow and labored, each step a struggle. His face was wrinkled, and his hair was white. The passage of time had left its mark on him, a stark contrast to the youthful faces Siddhartha was accustomed to. This was Siddhartha's first encounter with old age. He had never seen the effects of time so vividly before, and it left him deeply contemplative. Next, Siddhartha saw a sick man. The sight was heart-wrenching, a stark reminder of the fragility of life. The man was lying on the ground, groaning in pain. His suffering was palpable, a silent cry for help. His body was covered in sores and he could barely breathe. The sight of such suffering was new to Siddhartha, and it shook him to his core. This was Siddhartha's first encounter with sickness. He realized that health was not a given, and that illness could strike anyone, regardless of their status or wealth. Then, Siddhartha saw a dead person being carried on a funeral pyre. The finality of death was a concept he had never truly grasped until that moment. The body was wrapped in white cloth. It was a solemn sight, a reminder of the inevitable end that awaits all living beings. Relatives were weeping and wailing. Their grief was raw and unfiltered, a testament to the deep bonds of love and loss. This was Siddhartha's first encounter with death. The reality of mortality hit him hard, making him question the meaning and purpose of life. Finally, Siddhartha saw a holy man, an ascetic. The man was different from anyone he had seen before, radiating a sense of calm and tranquility. He looked peaceful and serene. The ascetic had an aura of contentment, as if he had found something that Siddhartha was still searching for. The ascetic had renounced the world to seek enlightenment. He had given up material possessions and worldly desires in pursuit of a higher truth. This encounter gave Siddhartha a glimmer of hope. He realized that there might be a path to understanding the suffering he had witnessed, a way to find peace and enlightenment. These foresights deeply troubled Siddhartha. He realized that suffering was a part of life. Everyone gets old, sick, and eventually dies. This knowledge filled him with sorrow. He wanted to find a way to end suffering. One night, Siddhartha decided to leave his old life behind. He left the palace, his wife, and his newborn son. He exchanged his fine clothes for the simple robes of an ascetic. This event is known as the Great Renunciation. Siddhartha was determined to find the truth about life and suffering. He traveled throughout India seeking wisdom from various teachers. He listened to their teachings and practiced meditation. Siddhartha became a wandering ascetic. He lived a life of poverty and simplicity. He begged for food and slept under trees. He spent his days meditating and searching for enlightenment. For 6 years, Siddhartha practiced extreme asceticism. He believed that by punishing his body, he could free his mind from desire. He ate very little, sometimes only a grain of rice a day. He slept on thorns and practiced holding his breath for long periods. Other ascetics gathered around him, impressed by his commitment. But despite his efforts, Siddhartha did not find enlightenment. He became very weak and almost died. He realized that this extreme path was not the answer. Siddhartha remembered a time in his childhood. He had been sitting under a rose apple tree. He had naturally entered a state of deep meditation. It was a state of joy and peace. This memory gave him hope. Section 5. The Middle Path. Siddhartha realized that he had gone too far with his asceticism. He needed to find a middle way, a path of moderation between luxury and deprivation. He decided to take care of his body and mind. One day, a young woman named Sujata offered Siddhartha a bowl of milk rice. He accepted it, knowing that he needed nourishment to continue his journey. He broke his fast and regained his strength. Siddhartha's followers were shocked. They thought he had given up on his quest for enlightenment. They abandoned him, believing he had chosen the easy path. But Siddhartha knew that he was on the right path. He understood that the way to enlightenment was not through self-denial or indulgence. It was through balance and mindfulness. Section 6. Enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. Siddhartha traveled to Bodh Gaya, a place in India. He sat beneath a large fig tree, now known as the Bodhi tree. He vowed to meditate until he reached enlightenment. Siddhartha meditated for 49 days and nights. He faced many temptations and fears. Mara, a demon, tempted him with desires and doubts. But Siddhartha remained strong. He would not be swayed from his path. During his meditation, Siddhartha looked deeply into his mind. He saw the true nature of reality. He understood the cause of suffering and the path to liberation. Section 7. The Awakened One. At the moment of his enlightenment, Siddhartha became the Buddha. Buddha means the awakened one, or the enlightened one. He had found the answers he was seeking. The Buddha understood the Four Noble Truths. 1. Life is suffering. 2. Suffering is caused by desire and attachment. 3. Suffering can be ended by eliminating desire and attachment. 4. The way to eliminate desire and attachment is to follow the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the path to enlightenment. It consists of right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Section 8. The Teachings of the Buddha. After his enlightenment, the Buddha decided to share his profound wisdom with the world. He had attained a state of perfect understanding and compassion, and he felt a deep sense of responsibility to help others achieve the same. He traveled extensively throughout India, visiting towns, villages, and cities, teaching people about the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. These teachings were revolutionary, offering a new way to understand and overcome suffering. The Buddha's teachings spread rapidly, resonating with people from all walks of life. His message of compassion, mindfulness, and ethical living struck a chord with many. He attracted many followers who became his disciples. These individuals were deeply moved by his teachings and dedicated their lives to learning and practicing the Dharma. They formed the Sangha, a community of monks and nuns who lived together, supported each other, and worked to spread the Buddha's teachings. The Sangha became a vital part of the Buddhist tradition, ensuring the preservation and dissemination of the Dharma. Together, they helped to spread the Buddha's message of compassion and wisdom. They traveled far and wide, teaching in villages, towns, and cities, and offering guidance to those seeking a path to enlightenment. The Buddha continued to teach for 45 years, tirelessly sharing his insights and guiding countless individuals on their spiritual journeys. His teachings were not just theoretical, they were practical and applicable to everyday life. he passed away at the age of 80, reaching parinirvana, the final release from the cycle of birth and death. His passing was a serene and peaceful event, marking the culmination of a life dedicated to the pursuit of truth and the alleviation of suffering. His teachings continue to inspire people around the world, offering a path to peace, happiness, and liberation from suffering. Today, millions of people from diverse backgrounds and cultures follow the Buddha's teachings, finding solace and guidance in his timeless wisdom. The Buddha's journey from prince to awakened one is an inspiration to us all. His life story reminds us that true happiness and enlightenment are not dependent on external circumstances but can be achieved through inner transformation. It shows us that enlightenment is possible for anyone, regardless of their background or current situation. By following the path of the Buddha, we can cultivate mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom in our own lives. We can all find peace and happiness by following the path of the Buddha. His teachings offer a timeless guide to living a life of meaning, purpose, and profound inner peace.